Now, we've got two breaking at 8 today. This was the one that we had lined up. So we thank our next guest, Nate Smith, for holding on. Now, this is something that we are really interested in, and we know that you will be too, particularly in a state where we've had a long discussion now, thanks to Kevin Scarce, about the possibilities, the economic possibilities and the safety issues surrounding the question of nuclear waste storage. Nate Smith is the Chief Executive Officer of WA Waste Storage. They run high-level nuclear waste storage facilities in the Western Australian goldfields. And we've got Nate on the line because there's a few issues we want to tease out, starting with the fact that there's been so much community concern, a lot of it understandably, about the fact that temporarily nuclear waste is going to be stored down at Port Adelaide. Nate, good morning, mate, and thank you so much for joining us. What are your thoughts about the Port Adelaide situation? Because it seems that we've got a sort of community tension where people in a suburban area are going, hang on, we're a bit uncomfortable with this. Yet we've seen, as per Kimber, where very safe rural areas have been identified for waste storage only to be stymied in the courts.
Hey, David. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat. A lot of stuff there. Can I just take a step back?
Yeah, do it.
Just a couple things from a clarification. I guess, first off, our company's called Tellus. We operate a site in Western Australia. I want to just make a clarification point on wording, because we're not a nuclear waste storage place. We don't take high level, but we do take low level radioactive waste. And no, it's all good, because this is really the issue. For your listeners, just to understand quickly, high level waste is what most people think about when they hear nuclear, right? And high level waste is spent fuel from reactors when they decommission these subs. That'll be an issue in 50 years, not now, and that's something that Tellus can't take. The low-level radioactive waste is radioactive waste that already exists in South Australia and Australia: uranium mining, water processing, nuclear medicine, even smoke alarms. That is going to be the year-to-year issue with the subs waste, and that's something that Tellus can and does take even now.
So Tellus is sort of like, you've got the sort of Lucas Heights level stuff, or indeed the stuff that is probably sitting in locked rooms in the basements of some of our public hospitals here in South Australia.
David, you nailed it. That's exactly right. Australia has been searching and has spent billions of dollars trying to find a solution for low-level radioactive waste for the last 50 years, and they've been unable to find one. And so, this is what's really interesting is the United States, our key AUKUS partner, has done the same thing. They've spent tens of billions and have unsuccessfully tried to find a place for this low-level radioactive waste. So do you know what the U.S. government has decided to do?
No.
They have actually started sending their low-level radioactive waste to one of the only other private companies in the world that actually takes and disposes of this stuff, a place in the United States. And that's what we're advocating for now. We can de-risk program delivery. We can take all of the LLW from these subs, low-level radioactive waste, immediately today. It'll be faster, better value for taxpayers, and much safer for community.
What's your thought on the Port Adelaide situation, Nate? Because I read the op-ed that you wrote for the Advertiser a couple of weeks ago, and I like this line where you're saying, I'm not saying that this material will cause community health issues if it is stored for years in Port Adelaide, but I am saying it definitely won't if it is buried in the WA desert. It sounds like Tellus would be much better equipped to deal with this without any community concern than doing it in the middle of a highly built-up suburban area.
Yeah, I think you're completely correct. Is when government defense says that this is going to be temporary storage, look, there's nothing dangerous initially. And I want to be clear, there's nothing dangerous initially about temporarily storing waste as you go through maintenance processes. Because a lot of what we're talking about is used glove, PPEs. It's like, stuff from an automotive shop almost, right? Except this stuff has low-level, radionuclides. The challenge is that this is not temporary storage, and it can't be called temporary storage. This is indefinite long-term storage because government has been trying for 50 years to find a site and has been unable to do so. So I can say with pretty much confidence that if they're not going to use our facility, which is up and running today and able to take this waste away from Port Adelaide, away from South Australia, to a willing community and traditional owners, this stuff's going to be a challenge and temporarily stored for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, exactly, Nate. And as you say, given the dramas we've seen with this and given the huge protracted battle over Kimber, a point you made previously, I'm pretty sure, alluding to under the terms of the AUKUS agreement, Australia is now contractually obliged under the terms of that agreement to house the spent, what will be high-level, I believe, nuclear waste from the submarines. How do you see that panning out, given the troubles we're already having with a much less challenging proposition?
Yes, that under the terms of that agreement, Australia has to both take the low-level radioactive waste, which again is the issue for the next 4 to 5 decades, and then eventually has to find a solution to the high-level waste, which, my understanding is that's the size of, a couple bathtubs, right? So it's a small volume, the high-level waste, but a really challenging issue. Now, look, to find a high-level waste repository, we certainly have the geology here in Australia, but that is going to take decades, right? And that is a real challenge, and it's going to cost quite a bit of money. My point is the near-term issue that's threatening the AUKUS program delivery is the low level, and that one's already solved. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's take a win.
Could you guys sort of upscale from doing low level to high level at Tellus? Is that part of your thinking longer term?
No, Sandy Ridge is what's called a near-surface geological repository. So think about an open-cut mine on one of the driest, most seismically stable areas in the world, and we cover it with this, looks like a big bouncy castle. It's a totally dry environment. There's this big air dome over it. Near-surface geological repository can only take low-level radioactive waste. High-level waste needs a totally different design. You really need to bore, hundreds of meters deep into the earth. So that's just something that our facility at Sandy Ridge isn't designed to do.
Yeah, right. I hope you've got a sign on it that says this is not a bouncy castle.
I tell you what, we'll take you out there, David. You can lean against it, totally safe. And we've already disposed of more than double in the last 18 months. We've disposed more than double the amount of low-level radioactive waste in the entire government inventory. We've already done that in the last 18 months. And we've done that for far less than the $110 million that was wasted on Kimba. And you think about that, that was only a short program. The amount of money we're going to spend to reinvent the wheel again, I think it's the obvious solution.
Good stuff, Nate. Nate Smith, the CEO of Tellus. Fascinating chat. We'll stay in touch on this issue because it's not one that's going to go away. Thank you, Nate.
Whilst we